how do you actually play Hades 2? So, hello everyone, Modern here. In this video, I'll cover my top 10 tips and tricks how to improve at Hades 2. I'm not gonna focus so much on the actual, like, how to fight this boss or whatever. Rather, I'm gonna explain all the underlying mechanics, like what resource to get, what to level up first, what gods are better to combine with other gods, general builds, different keepsakes, how to think about how to change keepsakes, right, and so forth. So hope you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, press the like button, and let's start with number 10, resource gathering. Okay, so for number 10, guys, I'm gonna be boring, okay? I'm a boring here. Number 10, always pick the level up stuff in the beginning. So this is honestly really boring, right? But seriously, this is a tip you wanna take seriously, honestly. In the game, every time you can pick different floors, right, different powers or whatever, you should never pick the temperate power up. And I know that makes it boring, right? Because you're picking the, oh, instead of Zeus, I'm picking Psyche. Instead of Aphrodite, I'm picking Ashes. But seriously, always do this when you start playing the game, because you need to get so much more items. This goes for the Boons, the Nectar, the Ashes, and the Psyche. You need to maximize this stuff. I mean, seriously, you will not beat this game on level 1, basically, right? Different in this game is that a lot of roguelike games, right? You don't carry over anything between the different sessions, right? But in this game, you have an actual level. Your character levels up. She gets stronger. She gets way better passive. Talk about it later. What passive you should unlock first and so on, right? But you really need to unlock certain passive. For example, an auto-revive passive, which is incredibly good in the game. Much more mana, much more health, right? Much higher chance to get better buffs, better boons. One buff is that you get certain chance to get a duo boon. Duo boons are broken. Duo boons change your whole build, basically, right? But to get that stuff, you need to have a higher level. So basically, you can of course beat the game without leveling up, but honestly, let's be real here, no one's gonna beat the game. So when you play the game, and I'm sorry, it's a boring tip, but this is the best tip once I give you guys. You should really always pick these doors, right? That gives you permanent, like for your character, for your account, so to speak. It is much more valuable, and this is like the first 100 runs, basically. But honestly, yeah, your first 100 runs, but you need a lot of this. And I'll talk about how you should level them up now then for number 9, but I say it immediately, it's Psyche then. So point number 9, first of all, improve your Psyche. So you can see here, on my second playthrough here, I am level 24 basically, right? You start on level 10, arguably then, because you have 10 Psyche. But honestly, Psyche is your level. And why I keep saying that Psyche is the one you should pick it first then, is because Psyche is basically the pipeline, it's the choke rate. So it is much easier in the game to get Ashes. It's easier in the game to unlock different skills, right, than to actually be able to equip them. To equip them, you need to have a lot of Psyche. And you can see here, on my playthrough now, when I'm almost filled up my Psyche here, 20, a little bit more than dozen levels then, it's already costing immensely amount now, right? 230 now, we level it up, it costs 240, so it started costing a lot, right, to get to the higher levels. After about 20 or so Psyche, it's get really expensive, but even before like 15 or so. So Psyche is where you are much more limited, right? It's more easier to farm Ashes and buy Ashes and so on, and have more runes that you actually can utilize, right? So again, Psyche is what you want to focus on. Now, to further get Psyche, play with the tablet. If you have the tablet, you can now talk to different ghosts. And by doing that, you can get maybe like 30 to maybe 60 more Psyche per floor. I'll say probably the average, like 1 or 2 ghosts per floor level. But that's because a lot more than. Okay, one run will give you about 120 or so more Psyche, right? So this is a way faster way to level up. The pickaxe or the digging is not worth it at all compatibility. You only need the pickaxe for mining in the first few rounds because you want to unlock the first weapons, right? Then you can't unlock the fifth weapon way later, so you want to have the tablet. Number 8, who should you give your Nectar to? Number 7 is changing keepsake. These 2 points are very connected. But first of all then, who should you give Nectar to? Well, when you give Nectar, you get keepsake. You get items that improves your passive different ways. For example, you get gold, you get more life, you have a higher chance to get a drop or whatever, right? First of all, you should give nectar to one per person, basically. When you give someone nectar, now I have already given Nemesis nectar here, but if I do it the first time, she will give me an item, right? It's a keepsake. So, giving her 2 nectar, I can show you guys now here, it's in the middle of a run. I won't get anything now. This will give me nothing. Yeah. Because I already have like... I'm at like 5 with her now in this round or whatever, right? So it won't give me anything. But the first one gives you an important item, right? Give every character 1 nectar, then you get 1 passive per character, and after that you should maximize 1 character. For example, Nemesis then. So after you've given everyone 1 nectar each, give her 9 more nectar, right? Or 10 or whatever, but it's like up to 10 I believe it is, for giving her maximized friendship with her, right? And then you go to Sharon or whatever, right? And you can go like that. Now, these passive you get, so-called keepsake, they can't be used at the same time. You can only use one of them per floor, basically. And this comes to the next point then, point number 7. So if you go to my keepsake collection down here on this run, I don't have all of them in this run, it doesn't matter. You can see this is a second run. I have unlocked this many so far, and they give you different abilities, right? So for example, this one gives you more gold, this one here gives you more damage to the one defeated you last time, this one here gives you life and so on, right? You could now, very important here, like I said, is to give everyone 1 nectar, right? Because then you get all of these passives. You see, I haven't done this run. I only give it like half, but whatever, I digress. I know what to do, so I don't care about some of them, honestly. But they're not balanced. Let's say that's for all. They're not balanced. They're not equally good at all. So you should definitely not give the gods the nectar first, okay? So when I say gods, I mean the Boon gods, like Zeus, Poseidon and so on, because their keepsake or this kind of thing. Like you increase your rarity for a boon. It's not very useful. Comparable to, for example, getting more gold from Sharon. This is 10 times better, or this is so much better. This is like 150 gold when it's maximized. You can buy 1 more whole boon. This is like you get higher rarity, and Aphrodite will likely appear, right? These things are only good when you have certain builds. On this playthrough here, I'm basically only using the axe all the time, so that's why I want Aphrodite, because I want to have that specific, like, higher increase on axe thing, comment later in the video. But, so I'm playing a very, very specific build, right? I'm trying to beat the game at lowest level as possible with only axe and so on. But so then I know I need Aphrodite, right? So that's what I want to use my build. But for a new player, you want this stuff. You want more gold. You want more life, right? So much, much more useful. That being said, though, this one is also very useful. Highly recommended, of course, which is the Chaos one. Commentating with it as well, but Chaos is very special. So gifting Chaos Nectar, so you can have him appearing guaranteed in the first floor, is very useful as well. So he's very different than the other guys. So Chaos is a specific differences. However, that's kind of the order of Nectar. Nectar first give it to the people in the village where you live, right? And then to Chaos, I would say. Anyway, I got number 7s and swapping them. So one thing that's very important to understand is that you can unlock swapping these keepsakes, which that means that you can only use them for 1 time per floor if you want to. And this is very, very useful because, for example, extra gold is a fast, it's a static value increase once, right? You can only get more gold once. That of course means that if you start with this on the first floor, it is useless on floor 2, 3, and 4, right? Because you don't have the gold, or if you use it later. So basically, starting with this extra gold is very, very good. I would say the first nectar should be put on Sharon, so you get this thing, 100 gold on level 1. And then of course, immediately then, when you get to floor 2, you swap it away, right? So it's very important to swap these things away. Again, this gold one, extremely good. Your specific god build, same thing there, right? Use for the first 1 floor to get specific upgrade you want. What more is good? Evil Eye is very good when you are on the last boss, right? Or whatever boss you're dying on, because they can put it on that floor to get damage increase to that boss. Ghost Onion is pretty good actually, my life point and so on. So basically, you swap it around, right? Oh, I need more life now. Then I can use this thing, right? If I need to heal myself. It'll be nice to have a little extra damage against a guardian, right? Or I swap that on, and so forth, right? Depending on where you are in the game. But it's very important to swap these things around all the time. Never use one keepsake for more than one floor. They should always be swapped. So you should have at least 4 really good keepsake and keep swapping all the time. Point number 6. What rune should you unlock then? Like I said earlier, first of all, right, again, get Psyche first. It's very hard otherwise to use these runes. But now you have the Psyche. Number 6 then. What runes to actually utilize then? Well, the absolute no-brainer of the best skill in the whole game, I would say, is Eternity. This is the same thing in Hades 1. It basically gives you 1 extra life, right? This is super important. Extremely important to have. I mean, the thing is that even if you're really good at this game, sometimes you get bad luck, right? Sometimes you get hit, and you have to, you know, suddenly you die because something random happened. Number 6. What runes to unlock then? Number 6. What runes to use then? Eternity is straight up the best rune, I would say, immediately. There are different builds, of course, here, but this is like the best rune in the game. It basically gives you an extra life point, and it's just amazingly OP. Same thing in the first game. For several reasons why. I mean, even if you're really good at this game, sometimes you get bad luck, right? Sometimes the boss quits you. So there's some random super boss spawns behind you kind of thing, and this will give you so much more than that. It also gives you more max health, right? Looking that way. It's 40% of your, you know, total life. So it actually is a lot of extra life point. I'm thinking about it in that sense. There's a huge actual increase in max health. But it's better than max health because say you have 1 health point left. The boss does 50 damage to you. Suddenly you don't take 50 then -1 or whatever. No, you take 1 damage, right? And you get resurrected with like 100 life back. So you only took like 1 damage versus having more life point to take more, whatever. But it's basically super broken, right? And basically, when you have it, you can rebuy it, you can buy more, you run and so on. It's amazing. I would say it's the best rune by far, just straight up, right? Another rune that I recommend is the Queen. This rune gives you duo. Okay, so duo boons, talk about later in the video. But basically, duo boons, or you combine 2 different gods to give you a special new boon that you can only get if you have, for example, Poseidon and Aphrodite give you a water boon, right? Because they both have water abilities. And these boons are always like really broken. They alter something crazy usually and gives you an incredible buff, right? So I think the Queen is like the second best, honestly. Because it really gives you a lot of like, the option to have this skill is so good. Like getting more duo, I think makes the building a real, like the build is much better. As you can see too, also the 0 pointer. You can activate the 0 pointers by fulfilling the prophecy here. You can't just have to awaken them by having not too many, but it's worth it for this one, absolutely. Another great one is this one, is having better boons. Yeah, speaking, I think it's better having 5ers than 1s or whatever. You have, you know, way more money. I think it's really good actually. I combine that right with the keepsake I mentioned with the Sharon keepsake, so I can buy like a bunch of boons the first round. I can just really quickly go through the first run. I think it's very good. Another one, the Titan. There's a lot of life and magic. Pretty straightforward here. The Hunter is interesting because you basically is always going to have less than full mana, right? This is like when you don't have full mana, you do more damage, right? That's basically all the time. You just throw 1 spell and you do more damage. So yeah, that's like super good. Some other ones here I think are decent. Some dodge chance, you know, you get a little bit dodge defiance. But I think again the important thing is having the double life. So on. And then the left one's down here. The fates and the one below are the more fate stuff. They're not that useful, honestly. These ones are like you can re-roll location. I think that's usually it's very meh, honestly. In the first floor, it's useful because you can then re-roll, like not picking up Psyche or whatever. But in floor 3 and 4, especially in floor 3, you always have so many options. So it's like, and even on floor 2, this is basically pointless. Re-rolling is almost never useful. Except again that in the very first levels you will have 2 options, and you might get like 2 research options. So I definitely would not recommend this fate build. You have the 3 different rules about fate. Don't use them. I think they're basically shit out of them. Now let's talk boons. Right? What is a good god? What's a bad god, so to speak? And I think that this is probably the funniest part of the game, of course, connecting different combos, different enemies or whatever. And I will certainly make another video later, which could kind of T-list the different gods, right? So I'll put out here, this is not a T-list now. I think I'm talking more now from like user friendliness or like beginner friendliness, right? Rather than what is the best god. But for example, here is an Hephaestus boon. This is one of the best boons on level 1. Straight up. Very good boon, right? The worst boon in the game, Moon Boom. Terrible. Terrible Moon Boom. Let me just explain one extra part though about moon booms, and then we go back to talking about the general booms here. Because moon is very, very different. First of all, you get a hex magic, which you can't use on level 1, basically, right? On your first floor or whatever you call it. You can't use it because usually it costs like 100 hex to use 100 magic, and you won't have that much mana. And so you need to level up your permanent character, right? So you have more mana to use it, or you need to get down like 10, 20 floors to get more mana. Then you can use it. It's a very, very strange ability thing. It's really useful, and the only one I really like there is the fountain that heals you. That actually is very, very useful. You get 3 heals per floor, and then you can use it for next floor again. So it actually is like 12 heals then in total, but usually it gets like maybe 9 or so. But it's a very, very good boon actually, if you get the healing on. The rest of them are very hard to use until you get like floor 3 or 4. So Moon Boom, worst on level 1 here on floor 1. Terrible, is right. In fact, it's arguably the best one. So the moon is quite different. The next time you get a moon power up, you will instead have a talent tree for your given hex, right? And this will make it cheaper, and usually get some health up and maybe some gold and so on. But still though, I think most of the moon abilities are not very good. And again, I mean, the problem is you need so much mana, right? So I do think that the moon healing, the fountain is very good. But the rest of them are very hard to use unless you have a lot of mana for your passive bonus, right? So you need to be really high level basically to use moon. But certainly you have some skills here. And they're different depending on what hex you have then, but they're basically kind of the same thing, like a little bit damage, a little bit cheaper, and then you get some passive like it lasts forever, or you get some gold, you get some money and so on. So it's like a weird thing honestly, but again, this is not really worth it. Now let's talk about some other boons then, right? I'll say immediately Aphrodite, probably my personal favorite one, because I like to get close to combat, right? I like using the axe a lot, but she's probably the worst boon, seriously, after the moon for a new player, because you kind of like, oh, you have to get a really, really close combat with her, right? Which makes it just harder to use it. You have to learn how to like dash fight the enemies, especially the third boss. You have to get back and forth between them, and so on. If you do it, of course, do more damage, but it takes a lot of skills, and you need to know like the boss mechanics and abilities. On the last boss, even more so, of course, but it takes a lot of basically knowledge to her passive basically is like the closer you are, the more damage you do, right? There is of course one duo boon with her and Poseidon that makes that all of your abilities, no matter the distance, is always counted as maximum close, which actually is very, very powerful on ranged weapon, like the Umbra here. This ability here. If you get this one with the duo thing, that's amazing. I just recorded that, I played it yesterday. It is so broken. Easily got me down the last boss. Super, super powerful. But otherwise, she's probably the hard one to use. Hephaestus, they have here then. Look at him. I'm doing it lazy here now. I want to look all the here. But Hephaestus is very good because this ability here, right? Which you usually get with Hephaestus. So this ability is a flat damage increase, right? 400 damage flat increase. So I would argue for Hephaestus probably the best boon actually on the first floor, because again it's a flat damage increase. If anything, it's not that good balance, honestly, right? That's why I put the video here, because the thing is that I'm gonna talk about this later as well on the video, but honestly, right, some of the gods are flat based and some are static based, right? Again, the Hephaestus here is flat based, 400 damage based on your specials or your basic attack if you get all the buff at him. That's like an insta kill on all the enemies here on the first floor. They will all die immediately. And if you get the vent thing from Hephaestus, first you hit them with the flourish and then they explode afterwards, That's like 800 damage or something like that, flat damage. So everyone will die, like even the boss will die from that basically. So Hephaestus is incredibly broken, right, on the first floor. However, on the fourth floor, right, you know what I mean? Then of course he's not stronger on the fourth floor. You're still doing 400 plus 400 damage, right, at best, if you let's level them up. And that is not that much better, of course. It's still actually pretty good, but comparably, look example the Aphrodite then, she has the like 150% close damage increase, and they get level 4. It's like 200% damage increase, roughly there, probably at level 4, and on floor 4, I mean, level 4, whatever. And that's way better, right? If you then also have the Dedalus thing, so you do like a double attack. So you do a double attack and you get the Dedalus psychic swing attack. So you do like double, basically a quadruple attack in your basic attack, right? And then you add 200 on that. That's like 8 times your basic attack. So that's incredibly more damage, and it easily outbeats these like 400 flat damage, right? But again, of course, on level 1, on floor 1 or whatever, especially if you're a new player, Hephaestus is just crazy good, right? Because this here doesn't care what weapon I have, it doesn't care how much Psyche I have, whatever, so it's much better ability. So that's my point here. The boons aren't balanced at all, and I'm gonna just give you a short breakdown there, I suppose. But like I said, Selene is the worst one because she's terribly, you know, flat hex basing. It's just almost unplayable if you're low level and new player, right? Like I said, Aphrodite, very stack based, right? So again, then based how much skill you have and better with close weapons and so on. Poseidon, also flat damage, similar to Earth then, also good on your lower level, right? He does like knockback damage, and he does splash damage, and like what's called displacement damage. So that all that is flat damage. It's very good with some of the weapons, like the axe, very good with the axe. It's very good with the first staff weapon, and that is like a very basic thing, right? To, you know, do high damage, similar then to Hephaestus. Demeter, as I pronounced, your grandma, the frost goddess. She is probably, I would say, the weakest god if you learn the game. Honestly, she probably is the worst god. So I played the game now for like 50 or 6 hours or whatever. I never pick her boon at all when I go around. Her boon is like terrible because, I mean, basically she freezes them, right? And that's not useless. And she has one boon that makes the freeze last longer. So you can have, if you have both weapons, click weapons, using freezing, and then you get the extended freeze thing, you can basically use frozen solid every basic enemy. So it's great, right? But her damage increase is terrible. She basically just makes every fight easier, of course, because she either freezes down the enemies or slows them down. So I think she's a very good, like, early god, right, to pick. If you're new to the game, she might be the best goddess to pick in the beginning, because basically all your attack makes it easier, right? Enemies are slower and so on. But yeah, when you learn the game, she probably is the worst one. I think she has the lowest damage increase, and you don't really need to slow down many bosses, except maybe the last boss, right? And that doesn't really work on him anyway. So it's like not very good. But sure, on some comp, especially if you have the range weapons, you can just easily kill anything from far range, right? Most Guardian fights. Hermes, interesting. Hermes boons are basically, like I mentioned, they're static increased, right? Similar to Aphrodite. I would say he's one of the worst gods if you're a new player. He's basically just like hit faster, run faster, and so on, right? However, of course, if you have a really good build, he's one of the best gods, right? So also put it and stand here. Hermes, not a very good, like, picking him in the early parts of the game. I like Hermes picks, right? Because I like over DPS builds and so on, attack builds. But I don't like to have him on the first floor, right? Because it's like, oh, you hit 20% faster. That's really great when you have, of course, all this like damage on your basic attack, right? Not very good in the beginning. So Hermes is one of the weakest gods in the first floor, arguably the best god in the fourth floor, but probably not even that, because it's not that much better increase. But still, though, he's like a, you know, a late bloomer as well, then, right? And of course, he also works much better with other like static, like, you know, dynamic based gods, right? What else do I have? Hestia is terrible. Not because of her design. No, but Hestia is terrible. Hestia is actually pretty terrible, like straight up, seriously. Her ability, one thing I like with her is you can throw your Q at them, so you can move your circle away from you, like a fireball. That skill is very good, and if you have like a lot of damage increase to your Q, That's really great. That's one of the best abilities in the game, to be able to throw your Q at them for range, and that makes certain builds really, really different and really powerful. But otherwise, Hestia's all of the builds are terrible. Like, oh yeah, my circuit does a little bit dot damage. Her ability to do special increases dot damage, is just so terrible. Basically, right, compare it to Hephaestus here. We look at him right because of flat damage. So his Vent does 400 damage flat right now. That's like a damage over time ability. It only does 1 damage. It's like 400 damage after, 5 seconds, right? Sure, but it's like still a dot, right? Hestia also dot. Her dot is like 5 damage per second. Your scorch damage inflicts 25. That is 40 damage from this one. It's so little, right? It's just so little compared to that, for example, 400 damage flat, right, from Hephaestus. This of course stacks if you do a lot of attacks. She basically does like minuscule damage. Her damage over time is basically like 1 basic attack at best, right? After a while. Again, Vent is like 400 damage. Sure, Vent has a longer cooldown though. Zeus is very good if you get a lot of Zeus things. I think Zeus is pretty terrible if you only have 1 or 2 Zeus. He's probably, in one way, the worst god, which puts a reason, right? Because you need to get him a lot. But if you have a lot of buffs to his lightning stuff, then it's very, very good. But you need to kind of get everything around that so you can trigger the lightning. Usually you have 1 or 2 abilities, right, that trigger the lightning, and then you have a bunch of like, if lightning trigger, this happens, then do double lightning, double, triple lightning, so on. So you need to have like a bunch of different passives for him to work. Then it's very, very powerful. Stand alone is very weak. And usually I avoid Zeus then, because if you have, let's say you have 4 Poseidon and 4 Aphrodite, right? And they say 1 Zeus, you're like, that probably won't do anything. But 1 Hermes is gonna be like, wait, 10% more damage increase, that's way better. Where Zeus is like, oh, a lightning bolt sometimes, it's really hard to play Zeus in late game. So you have to basically pick him early game and kind of build around him. Best boon though is of course Dedalus Hammer. So Dedalus is the guy that built the labyrinth and is a father Icarus or whatever, it's not a god, whatever. Dedalus Hammer is broken. Same thing in the first game, right? So Dedalus Hammer changes your main ability, your main attack usually. It also might change your load or whatever, but usually it will alter either your basic attack or your special attack, right? And it's just so broken. For example, this one makes your range attack become 2 attacks. This is incredibly good. And not only does it do like double damage then afterwards, you can throw your attack on a wall and make it bounce on the wall, so you can hit the enemy from the sideline. So this makes it so much better, right? This thing here makes your special now and have the Umbrella of Fire to go forward instead, is hit with it, and it basically completely removes all armor, right? Melting Comet, very good if you put armor and so on. My point is that this is the best thing to get early in the game, of course it is, and usually I would recommend that you build around this, right? If you get something here that like doubles your basic attack, you probably want to get other boons now later that boost your basic attack, right? So these are not equally good, right? But they're all very, very powerful, and yeah, you build around that, right? So obviously that hammer is the best boon, and then you can go from that. So sometimes you want to hit the wrong boon purely based on its infusion. So you see the elements up here, right? This is earth, water, fire, and so on. And in this build here, I'm playing very close combat, very high damage, high health axe build, right? So flutter strike, close up damage, bonus, right? Very, very good ability. The best I would say for axe, but whatever. The point is it's water, right? Now I have another ability for Aphrodite. I didn't get what I actually needed, because I wanted to get another one, but whatever. So I don't actually need anyone you see here. They don't actually help me that much. A little bit of ring, a little bit of encounter, but basically I'm gonna pick this one, right? Even though I won't use my special that much with the axe, because I want more water, right? Because I know there are a couple of Poseidon and also Aphrodite passives to get if you have 4 water, right? And because I know I'm gonna stay on the Aphrodite axe buff, right? The normal attack buff. So my build is centered around that, being a tanky axe builder. So I know I'm gonna have that, and I know I wanna have water infusion, right? So I'm gonna pick this one here mainly because I get under water, right? So you have to think that as well later in the game, like how do I get 4 water or 4 fire or whatever. So again, because I'm currently building everything around my water main attack, right? Then I'm like, okay, I have more water, right? Like, sometimes you get duos, right? Duos are basically always the best thing to get. It's pretty easy to figure out how to get duos. Basically, it's the gods that have the same element. So, for example, then Aphrodite, and she's kind of watery to some extent. A lot of her of water, so her and Poseidon will give you her heart thing, her duo, right? Now, of course, Hestia and Hephaestus are both gonna have fire, right? He's fire nerd, she's fire nerd, so they have the fire thing going on, right? So it's basically like you take the gods to have similar abilities by element stuff, right? Look at the Boon for this one here. I'm kind of fire focus here, right? I'm going a lot of I'm doing a dot based on Hestia. Then I also got the Hephaestus, where is it? Hephaestus Flourish, all right. This is kind of my build. A little bit of fire as well from Apollo. So yeah, like that's gonna give me a duo, right, with the fire guy. For example, this one then will double my Hephaestus blast, right? It's a 400 flat damage. Now it turned into 800 damage then, because it will do a double thing, right? Which is really great if you had another one. Okay, when should we go to Chaos then, right? Or other specific guys? For example, the people that gives you certain lore bits per floor, right? Well, Chaos is very special. It costs you life points, and he curses you, right? I think it's pretty straightforward. You should go to Chaos as soon as you can. On the last floor, it wouldn't help much because it takes too much time to use him, right? And he doesn't appear on the last floor anyway. But you want to use him on the first floor if you can, or second floor. On the third floor, it might get tricky, depending on what reward you get, right? But you should basically always take him on the first floor if you can, and preferably more than once, right? So if you go to Chaos here, this one here, it costs life points, you can heal that later on and so on. Now, Chaos will give us some kind of strange ability, right? For example, here it's like, oh, you get negative to your mana. Oh, you take more damage, right? But then you move the channel faster, and then you lose health, but you get more mana, right? Now, I don't think any of these are very good, honestly, because you cannot stat focus on your mana and so on. Channeling to some extent, depending on your build. But the ones that makes you hit stronger are just broken, right? The ones that gives you like, oh, you do less damage for like 4 encounters, but after that you do 20% more basic damage. That one is like stuff like that, right? It's crazy good. There is one other thing with him that you might get. There are a few different ones, but there are a few boons that are like, oh, you don't get any money or you can't see the reward, but afterwards you will always get more better rarity, or the one that you will get more gold or whatever. Those ones are incredibly beneficial if you get them early game, right? On the first floor, if you start with Chaos in the first room, if you're really lucky. So honestly, as I mentioned earlier with keepsakes, right? Different gods in the keepsake. The Chaos keepsake is the most valuable by far. Give him one Nectar, right? So you can have a guaranteed Chaos appearing on that floor. So you can guarantee him to appear on your first floor. It's one of the best keepsakes. Probably, again, the best god. So when you see the symbol here, right? Always take this way. This path gives you to meet a person. Gives you some bit of lore, some storyline. But they more or less always gives you better stuff than you get on the floor anyway. Now, on this floor, 4th floor here, without spoilers, is incredibly good. This is by far the best one, so you should absolutely get it. But even on like the first floor, Arachne's like suits to you, gives you armor, gives you more life or whatever, more gold or so on. Second floor, usually you get like money and health or whatever, but it's still kind of better because you get a lot of money and a lot of health and so on. So it's like 2 in 1 way, right? Or maybe you get some permanent resources like Psyche. And on the third floor, you get this like echo thing, so you can copy your previous ability, which is very good, especially if you have Moon then, so you copy your last Moon, then it's very, very good. But you also copy some more stuff as well, it might work, right? So the third floor is a little special, but usually it's still the best thing as well, especially if you have Mood. But always on the 4th floor, absolutely 100%, always. So those are my top 10 tips and tricks for Hades 2 for new players. What do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Do you have some tricks that you prefer? Do you have some guys you prefer? Of course, I am looking into doing a tier list, right? You know I love doing tier list. And while this game, of course, is about combinations, I think there are certainly, as I mentioned in my brief list there, right? There are certain guards which are, whoa, I love having this guard for the first floor. And there are other guards who are like, they have to start with this guard again, I want to give up. So, I will work on that. But I think I have a pretty good image right now of gods. And like I said, I think Hestia is probably the worst by far, and she will probably be buffed if anything. The fire setting buff does 2 damage, and the rest is just terrible. So she's probably the first guy to get buffed, would be my guess. If you liked the video, please subscribe, press the like button, and have a great day.